Overthinking Futurama.
This episode's title, My Three Sons, references the sitcom My Three Sons, which ran for 12 seasons on ABC and CBS from 1960 to 1972. Remember when 12 seasons only took 12 years and one network change?
Petridge Farm remembers.
The central premise of this episode was one of Matt Groening's earliest ideas for the show, according to David X. Cohen in the DVD commentary. It was going to be the second episode of the series until they decided to establish the setting and the characters with some more down-to-earth episodes first. I won't rehash all my thoughts on this, I did go into detail on it in Overthinking Love's Labor's Lost in Space. Overall, I just think it was a really smart idea that shows the care that went into the early seasons of this show. This robot wash is a very high-tech design. By which I mean, I'm pretty sure they took the entire run of the Jetsons and the entire 1990s and slammed them together in a particle accelerator, and this is what came out on the other side. Strangely, Bender does not use his trademark coin on a string that he uses to scam coin-operated services, but even weirder than the fact that he pays at all is that he pays before selecting the quality of the wash he wants, which implies that all the choices cost the same amount. I'm pretty sure Bender pressing in his antenna is a reference to older cars with antennas that could retract so they wouldn't be damaged by the car wash. This whole cold open is so 90s it bursts my .com bubble. I can't play it on YouTube, but the song beneath the bot wash sequence is the 1976 disco funk hit Car Wash by Rose Royce, with Bender singing his own lyrics over top. Despite them having been extinct for 800 years, as established a few episodes later in Xmas Story, future society still appreciates the smell and appearance of pine trees. Granted, this shape could represent some other type of tree closely related to pine. Who knows what it actually smells like? It's not clear if only the pine genus went extinct, or if the larger pine family, which includes trees like cedar and spruce, were also wiped out. I'm gonna leave that there, but if you're excited for more Futurama pine tree lore, be sure to check out Overthinking Xmas.
Hey, I'm Elzar. We're gonna kick it up a notch as I show you how to fricassee a mouth-watering Neptunian slug. Bam!
Elzar is a parody of real-life celebrity chef Emeril Lagasse.
While we're on a roll, I think I'll add some white chocolate just to kick it up a notch. Then just kind of bam, 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 bam! It's kind of a couple.
The Futurama version is voiced by John DiMaggio, who does another famous voice that you'll all recognize. That's right, Uncle Arthur from the Super Mario Brothers movie.
They give an Oscar for worst actors?
Hey, what'd I do? You know, you don't have to drive all the way to Neptune for great Neptunian food.
That is one inert slug.
Woo-wee! Now, while you're greasing the pan...
Elzar's bottom left hand grabs a blob of grease, places it carefully in the pan, and for some reason returns to the grease container before helping one of the other hands hold the pot steady. I'm no chef, but sure doesn't look like that pan got greased very well, at least not as well as everything else that hand is about to touch.
While you're greasing the pan and preheating your oven at 3,500 degrees...
Assuming he means degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature unit used by ovens in North America, 3,500 degrees is hot enough to melt platinum. Actually, it's hot enough to melt chromium. But, come on. Who cares about chromium? I'm sure you're all scrambling for that chromium rank in online gaming, or celebrating the Queen's Chromium Jubilee. Yeah, I didn't think so. If, however, he means 3,500 degrees Celsius, well, that's hot enough to boil tungsten. I know, your mind is blown by how meaningless that statement is to anyone who's not a chemist. So, let me put it this way. Whatever device you're watching this on, Elzar's oven would be hot enough to melt that thing, obliterate the plastic, and bring the resulting soup of metals to a boil. Except the tantalum, of course, but yeah, I'm sure that goes without saying.
You're gonna separate the yolk from your genetically enhanced eggplant, and then give the whole thing a good blast from your spice weasel.
Watching in slow motion, that spice weasel just appears out of nowhere.
Bam!
Hey, what you watching?
Nothing.
Is that a cooking show?
No, of course not.
Bender, I didn't know you liked cooking.
How much does this one shot date this show? The chonky TV, the handset telephone, antennas, purple hair. This could be any Polaroid snapped in any middle-class living room in the 90s. On Halloween. Elzar sure tidied up his kitchen fast. Did he just flip me off? Listen carefully between the words of this line.
I didn't know you liked cooking. That's so cute. Cooking. That's
At first, I thought we were hearing background noise from the recording session, like Katie Segal squeaking her chair or something, which seems bizarre that they would miss, but actually, it's from the TV. It's the sounds of Elzar grabbing and opening the door of the oven.
I didn't know you liked cooking. That's so cute.
Why is it we can hear that, but not anything Elzar's saying?
It's true. I've been hiding it for so long.
Why would Bender, a being who neither tastes nor requires food, be interested in cooking? After thinking about it for a while, I decided that it actually makes perfect sense. If we think about the things that are important to Bender, attention, feeling important, impressing people, being creative, more attention, bending, even more attention, pretty much all of them are achievable by learning to cook well. Who doesn't love someone who provides them with great food? On top of that, I imagine Bender watches cooking shows for the same reason that I follow YouTube channels about math and technology stuff that I don't fully understand. When I watch an infant AI learn a simple task or a mathematician use imaginary numbers to solve a real-world problem, it feels almost magical. If you had no taste, I mean sense of taste, you obviously have great taste. If you couldn't taste and had no need to eat, yet the humans around you were doing it constantly and not just dryly ingesting the nutrients, but spending time and effort to transform the raw ingredients into satisfying and pleasurable sensations that can't be understood outside of experiencing them, would that not fascinate you?
You don't even have a sense of taste.
Honey, I wouldn't talk about taste if I was wearing a lime green tank top. Damn!
The very first time I saw this episode, I spent the first 3 minutes and 15 seconds wondering why Leela's top was this ugly green color instead of its usual white. Then came Bender's admittedly sick burn, and then we don't see the green tank top ever again. And I'm sitting there thinking, was that mildly funny joke the whole reason they changed her shirt color in the first several scenes of the episode? What I'm saying is, this episode of Overthinking Futurama has been in production for decades. There was a bit of development hell while I learned to edit videos and waited for YouTube to be invented, but after that it was smooth sailing through purgatory. What is this sign trying to tell me? Is it 2/3 girls and 1/3 aliens? Are the aliens also girls? Are none of the girls aliens? Is it girl humans and non-girl aliens? Forget this nonsense. I'll just go get an all-tentacle massage. But wait, what is this sign trying to tell me? Do I get massaged by tentacles, or do I get my tentacles massaged? I'll just go here. At least I know what this sign says. This is Morse code for the letter F. Or L if you read from bottom to top. Oh, I can't stand this ambiguity. I'm done. I'm going downstairs to order Domino's.
All right, double 9. So this is little Neptune.
Yep.
Head shop? What on earth? Hang on. Oh, I see what you did there. Figuratively, of course, since it's no longer on the screen. Back it up, we missed some alienese. My Three Sons is the first in-episode occurrences of Alien Language 1 since the series has landed, and they sure made up for not including it in episodes 3 through 6. This little Neptune segment is chock full of it, and I'll point it out as we go. This says open, simply transliterating the English, and the small sign here says ring. What a sad, sobering look at the future. 1,000 years of progress, and vending machines still do this. Also, they really knew how to utilize that expensive 3D animation where it was important, didn't they? The arched text under this televideo machine says, Televideo. I know, your mind is blown. These symbols here appear to be the numbers 1 through 12 corresponding to the buttons above them. And this... Actually, I have no idea what this is. This is a weird one. I can't make heads or tails of it, and I can't find anywhere online where it's even mentioned. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th symbols look like the letters R, N, and T, written in Alien Language 1. I think the only 5-letter English word that ends in those letters is burnt, but these don't look like a B and a U, and I have no idea what burnt would mean in this context anyway. The closest match for this symbol is the number 2, and this one doesn't look like a character from either of Futurama's alien languages. The AL1 symbol for X looks kind of similar, but it's facing the wrong way. So what's going on here? Are these actually just a lowercase I and a lowercase e? And if so, what does it mean? Both of those symbols do have significance in math, and we know the Futurama writers love them a good math joke, so maybe that's the angle here? But I just don't see it. So if any of you could figure out what this is trying to say, leave a comment below and let me know.
Psst. You want to buy organ? Fresh and cheap.
While the trenchcoat man flashes Fry with his body parts, we see the letters A, R, K, E, and T on this sign with one obscured letter in front of them, just like on this sign where Fry's head is conveniently placed in front of the first letter. Maybe someday the creators will reveal what mysterious message they were trying to reveal here.
What's this?
Ah, it's Xray Eye. See through anything.
False advertising. If it sees through anything, it would also see through the thing that's behind the thing you're trying to see through, and the thing behind that, and so on and so on. In other words, you wouldn't see anything at all. Oh wait, maybe it is true. It just sucks.
Wait a minute. This says Z-Ray.
C is just as good.
The Xray tag has a hyphen until its last few frames of animation when Fry is holding it horizontally. Then it has a hyphen again when he drops it, until it stops moving again, and once again has no hyphen.
In fact, it's better. It's 2 more than X.
I can see where that would be an advantage.
After the cut, the organ trafficker goes from holding out 2 fingers to magically holding a Xray Eye in his hand, and the one Fry was looking at is still in his jacket, as is this one, which wasn't there before the close-up.
Do you take cash?
Fry, you have to be more careful.
Neptunians typically have 4 arms, but this one talking to number 9 guy only has 2. It's probably just a mistake, but it's also plausible that he sold them to the organ dealer from the previous scene, because, well, I don't know. 2-arm sweaters cheaper, is right?
You're not in the 20th century anymore.
The text on these posters is a little hard to translate, since the symbols are written very small and the streaming compression is not our friend in this endeavor, but the topmost one clearly says boxing. This one has the word the. I was confused about the H symbol until I compared it with the final poster, which I believe says the I will come. It's weird that the words will and come would be smushed together like this into a single word, but after trying out every symbol that looked remotely like these hard-to-read scribbles, this was the only translation that made sense. If you can find a better one, let me know in the comments. By the way, I think that poster's out of date. The I has already come, and it set up shop back over here. A little further along are some more posters with symbols on them, but these don't appear to say anything at all. In fact, only some of these squiggles represent characters in either of Futurama's alien languages, and even then, some of them are upside down. The only meaningful thing I was able to decipher was these 2 symbols, which might say 3D, as in the numeral 3 followed by the letter D. But I suspect they're actually just random scribbles designed to mimic alienese or just look alien in general. The weird thing is, these posters are part of the same background as these posters. In fact, as Fry and Leela are walking, both sets are briefly on the screen at the same time, so why would one set of posters have meaning while the other doesn't? As I've mentioned many times before, I love the subtle, lifelike animation details that the animators put into this show, like this Neptunian grabbing the fruit with her lower hand and passing it to the upper one to examine it, the undulations as this guy slithers along, the way this guy is clearly the offspring of one of Kif's species having a baby with Homer Simpson, or the way that you can tell at a glance that this guy has serious problems.
I do have trouble breathing underwater sometimes. I'll take the gills.
Then you don't need lungs anymore, is right?
Can't imagine why I would.
Lie down on table. I take lungs now, gills come next week.
Thank you!
By the way, Zoomers, this, nobody would have noticed if they hadn't. This guy takes his job too who am I kidding? I have no idea what just happened.
Did you ever stop to think I might be happier with gills?
Good news, everyone.
Uh-oh, I don't like the sound of that.
Well, get used to it. This is the first instance of the professor's foreboding catchphrase, but we're about to start hearing it a lot.
Are we even allowed in the Forbidden Zone?
It's just a name. All the zones have names like that in the Galaxy of Terror.
What's going on in this shot? New York is over here. Unless they had a stop off in China, why are they flying out from the far side of the planet? Also, it's apparently midday in the eastern states, but the sun's position means that, really, twilight should be setting in. The same should be true of this red moon, or copper-plated Death Star, or schmutz of salsa on the camera lens. Yes, I can already hear you all down in the comment section. I know it's probably supposed to be Mars, but that's just not possible. From our perspective, things that are further down on the screen are closer to us. If we imagine that the solar system is resting on the surface of a table, we are slightly above that table and looking downward at an angle at it.
I seek a meeting with the one who sits above the table.
Not now, Keanu. What that means is this red thing is closer to us than the sun is. We, meanwhile, are really close to the moon, which is well inside Mars's orbit. It's simply not possible for Mars to be between the moon and the sun like this, assuming Mars is still in its proper orbit, which I have no reason to think it wouldn't be since all that nonsense in A Farewell to Arms hasn't happened yet. So one of two things is true. This is something else, perhaps the world's largest red Skittle, a promotional stunt from Mars, the candy company, not the planet, or Mars, the planet, not the candy company, fell off the table. In which case, someone should really grab it before the cat gets it. I can see why this thing is called the Galaxy of Terror. Either it's heckin' close to us, or it's heckin' gigantic, and popped out of nowhere sometime between now and the year 3000. I suppose it could be Andromeda, which is getting closer, and will eventually collide with our Milky Way galaxy, but that game of cosmic twister isn't scheduled to happen for another few billion years. Said collision will result in a new galaxy that scientists call Milkomeda, or Milkdromeda. Which is why I hope we can all get together and agree that scientists should never, ever be allowed to name things. Bender's Apron here is a reference to a Twilight Zone episode and a Damon Knight short story on which the episode was based. Both are entitled To Serve Man, and have plots centering around a book called To Serve Man, which is written in an alien language. This gets translated by the end of the story, and people learn not to judge a book by its cover.
Listen, this is Bender's first meal.
Are these hard-boiled egg yolks supposed to be pieces of that slug?
That's the saltiest thing I've ever tasted. And I once ate a big heaping bowl of salt.
Isn't that the famous bat signal?
It sure is, Aunt Harriet.
Commissioner Gordon must wish the services of the dynamic duo.
My vision's fading. I think I'm gonna die.
The salt level was 10% less than a lethal dose.
Uh-oh, I shouldn't have had seconds.
It's always bugged me that Zoidberg said this line. A lethal dose of salt should be different for different types of alien creatures, and Zoidberg, being a saltwater sea creature, should presumably have a higher salt tolerance than the humans. Unless that's why this is funny and it's just gone over my head all this time, in which case, please disregard. The ship's shadow is directly below the ship here, suggesting there's a sun directly above. A few moments later, the shadows are long, as the sun, currently in the sky, is setting. It could just be an oversight, but this actually fits really nicely with my theory for how the Trisolian solar system works, which I'll share in a few minutes.
Just go to the palace, drop it off, and come right back.
Jeez, will you lay off?
At first I thought it was a streaming issue, but after multiple viewings I've concluded that this scene right here is noticeably blurrier than the surrounding scenes.
Hello? Anybody home?
The pillars beside the throne are covered in signs written in alien languages. There's one in Alien Language 1 that says, "Don't drink the Emperor." Near the top of that same pillar is one in Morse code that says, "Don't drink the Emperor." And later we see that Fry's delivery to this planet is a new sign, which according to top exolinguists translates to, "Bend that like button and subscribe to Cenometry." In all seriousness, I think we're supposed to assume that all of these signs mean, "Don't drink the Emperor." In reality, I'm sure most of them are just gibberish, random characters drawn to look like alien writing. We do see what could be real Egyptian hieroglyphs, and some characters that look similar to Arabesh, which is a writing system from Star Wars. Nobody would have noticed if they hadn't made these water aliens translucent, which makes the fact that they did that much more awesome.
You drank our Emperor!
No, it wasn't me.
Where were they keeping those spears?
All hail the new Emperor! Hail!
After I specifically asked you not to touch anything.
This is the first of 3 times the word ask is said in this episode. The second and third times it's spoken by Fry, so those don't count. The whole point of the gag is that he uses an archaic pronunciation. Spoken by Leela, though, it should be axe.
Excuse me, Your Majesty, I am Merg, the High Priest. If I might try to take over the world.
Aww, this one has a pet. Good luck house training that thing.
I humbly advise that as your first act, you choose a capable Prime Minister. I suggest Gorgak, the previous appointee.
I gotta go with Bender.
Yes! In your face, Gorgak!
That's it, Fry. As your captain,
Bender teleports away the instant we cut to the wide shot.
This is Your Majesty's harem. You may choose any of these maidens to be your royal consort.
And are the rest just gonna stay in their bottles? I suppose there's no reason to assume that. Even the Emperor was resting in a bottle when Fry first got there, so maybe that's just how they sleep. In which case, Fry and Murg are just hanging out, creeping on some sleeping maidens, I guess. Actually, it's worse than that. Fry can't tell the difference between any of the maidens, but Murg sure can, and he comments on Fry's choices.
Oh, I didn't realize your majesty was into that sort of thing.
And all of this implies that whatever sexual proclivities or characteristics that these maidens have are on full display. That's just how it works in their culture, and how dare you judge them for it, you xenophobe. Voyeuristic perversions aside, I do love the design of the Trisolian world. It's beautiful, both visually and conceptually. I love the contrast of water-based beings living on a hot desert planet and how much the three suns concept invades the visual style. By the way, Trisol, three suns, there's another I see what you did there moment. In this one scene alone, we see the three suns everywhere. The rug, the headwear, the arch over the door. Even these rainbow-like shapes on the edge of the rug could be seen as the three suns layered on top of one another, like some kind of double eclipse. They also incorporate wavy lines that look like waves or ripples into their designs. It makes me wonder if there was once an ocean or a vast sea on this planet that was perhaps where the Trisolians originated. It appears to be mostly desert now, but the memory of the primordial sea lives on in their artwork and their architecture. That, of course, is my own speculation, but the fact that it can make me think about things like this shows the amount of thought and design that went into this episode.
These people seem really mild-mannered.
They are mild. You're soaking in one right now.
You touched me in ways I've never been touched before.
You, might want to get yourself checked, Gorgak.
It's time to begin preparing for tomorrow's coronation ceremony.
There won't be a lot of long-winded speeches, will there?
Only one. The absolutely flawless recitation from memory of the royal oath. By you.
Ooh, foreboding. I'm sure this bit of tension won't fizzle into nothing.
What is the deal with people from under the orange sun? They're all... But us guys from under the red sun, we're like...
Hang on. How can you be from under one sun or another? This has to be some kind of Trisolian slang, right? Because all of the planet is under all of the suns. Just not always at the same time. Then again, maybe time is what it's all about. Maybe this is the Trisolians' version of being born under a certain zodiac sign. So if you're from under the orange sun, you were born when the orange sun was highest in the sky or something. In any case, this feels like a good place to talk about the feasibility of Trisol's solar system. In the DVD commentary for My Three Suns, David X. Cohen revealed that the creators had some discussion about whether a planet could really orbit three suns, in his words. He described the concept as iffy, and that's understandable. Star systems with multiple stars are real and are actually quite common. But they're significantly more complicated than our own solar system, where pretty much everything just orbits the one big guy in the middle. When you have more than two things gravitationally bound together, the system tends to be chaotic and lack stability. Still, in the decades since this episode was made, scientists have confirmed the existence of many planets with stable orbits in three-star systems. Whether any of these could support life, even amorphous liquid life, is another question entirely, but these planets can exist with a variety of different types of stable orbits. In short, what I think is going on is that the red and yellow suns are orbiting around each other, while the orange sun orbits around them both. This is called a hierarchical trinary. If Trisol also orbits the red-yellow binary, but inside the orbit of the orange sun, this would explain why the orange sun sometimes appears far away from the other two and at other times appears close to them. That, however, barely scratches the surface. There are a lot of weirdnesses that need to be accounted for with these suns. And while I have come up with an idea that could possibly explain all of it, there are two problems. One is that it just needs more work, and at this point that would be delaying an otherwise finished video. And the second problem is that one segment would have been about a quarter of this video's runtime, and if there's people who aren't into it, I don't want them to be bored for that long. So I've decided to break that off into its own video that will be coming out as soon as I can get it done.
You're in tremendous danger, you idiot! Half these emperors were drunk at their own coronation. In fact, the law says you'll be killed on the spot if you fail to recite the oath from memory.
Dun dun dun. The tension deepens. I can't wait to see this resolve.
Don't you ever think ahead?
If I stopped to think ahead, I wouldn't be emperor, and I wouldn't even be here in the year 3000.
I'm not entirely sure what Fry means by this, since as far as he knows, he fell into the freezer tube by complete fluke. I suppose he could be referring to the fact that he was slacking off and sat down to eat pizza and drink beer instead of returning to his job. Either that or his memory of what happened before getting frozen is a little fuzzy.
It's just like the story of the grasshopper and the octopus. All year long, the grasshopper kept burying acorns for winter.
While Fry is telling his shiny metal Aesop's fable, the paintings behind him and Leela change repeatedly. They start out in front of the empty frames for Fry's assassin and Fry's assassin's assassin, with a long line of empty frames behind Fry. After the first cut, we see Emperor Bont over Leela's shoulder. He was the emperor immediately before Fry, meaning that Leela is now standing right beside Fry's portrait. Then Fry walks past Leela, who is now in front of an empty frame again, and next to it is an unlabeled portrait of some guy with weird eyes, who is neither Fry nor Bont. Then after the next cut, there's a portrait of some other emperor behind Leela, where we should still see an empty frame. Finally, they're back in front of the weird eyeless guy and an empty frame again.
I'll be fine. It's not like anyone's gonna drink me.
He has a point. Unless there's a vampire with imperial aspirations on this planet, Fry is pretty safe in a place where the assassination method of choice is catching a guy unaware and physically consuming his liquid essence. Some Trisolians carry solid weapons, but I suspect these are ceremonial rather than actual combat tools. They're hardly useful for hurting other Trisolians, who can splash themselves to pieces and reconstitute at will. And even against solid beings, the Trisolian soldiers don't appear to know how to use them. When a solid weapon or tool could really come in handy, like when they're trying to break into the throne room later in the episode, they don't use them. They just throw themselves against the door repeatedly, as if the concept of smashing it with something solid is foreign to them. Granted, a bunch of Trisolians together could pose a danger to Fry. They could dogpile and drown him, maybe. But a lone assassin would have a harder time and need to be quite creative in his approach.
People of Trisol, it is my honor to present your new emperor.
That is one gargantuan ocean of Trisolians gathered for the coronation. Are they just here to watch the freak show, i.e. the swearing in of a literal alien overlord? Or do they gather like this for every coronation?
What up?
That lone drip sound effect is comedy gold. You know, I've always liked this episode, but I've never really appreciated it for the work of art that it is, until I started overthinking it.
Stick to the oath.
I, Fry, who drank Bont the Viscous, who drank Ungo the Moist.
Is this whole oath just a record of how each guy murdered the previous guy? And if they all drank each other, does that mean all of the previous emperors are inside Fry right now?
Who slurped Hudge the Dewy, who enjoyed a soup composed principally of Throm the Chunky, do solemnly swear.
Back up. We're at the end of the list here. Does that mean Thrawn the Chunky was the first emperor? And the first ever royal assassination involved turning the guy into soup and sitting down to consume him as part of a leisurely meal? I mean, you gotta give Hudge the Dewy some style points for that. These modern assassins have no creativity, just rehashing what's been done before. They're basically Disney.
Quit it.
My thoughts exactly.
Solemnly swear to rule with honor and...
Although he's at the end of his speech, Fry is looking up here for the word that he forgot rather than down here. Also, putting aside the question of how a multi-volume oath can fit on Fry's arm, what happened to flawless recitation by memory? I guess it's possible the Trisolians don't realize he's cheating, since writing stuff on one's arm is an ability only possessed by the solid. But he says the freaking word wrong.
Insanity. Integrity.
Congratulations, Your Highness.
This "you'll be killed if you don't recite the oath flawlessly" thing feels like an orphaned plot thread that they were planning to develop and later abandoned. Anyone else find it incredibly weird that this guy has a mustache?
Check out the glowing freaks. It's beautiful. Hey, what's that?
What's going on? Where did it come from? How'd my face get on it?
Is it the shock and surprise of seeing their previous emperor in Fry's stomach that makes them stop glowing? Or are they just being considerate of the animation budget? That was nice of them.
The Emperor Bont!
He's still alive!
Of course I'm alive!
I don't know how this nocturnal glowing thing that they do makes him visible through Fry's abdominal wall, but did he just wake up or something? They can obviously hear him clearly. Why didn't he call for help before now?
Let us in! Fry must die so that Bond may live!
I guess it's nice to know that there's a planet somewhere out there in the cosmos where the public schools are worse than ours.
I'll simply spin you in a high-speed centrifuge, separating out the denser fluid of His Highness.
But won't that crush my bones?
He was okay with getting his lungs removed because he'd be receiving gills the following week, but somehow he knows this centrifuge thing would be lethal. You know what I've just realized? Fry's missing brainwave doesn't make him stupid. It just gives him very selective intelligence.
Why didn't you just sweat him out? Forget it. As Emperor, I refuse to be dripped out through somebody's armpit.
Are you really in a position to be calling the shots here?
Well, I could vomit or...
Stop right there. Yes, do that one. 5 seconds and it's done.
Well, I could vomit or urinate. Would you feel better about that?
Slightly. But my favorite so far is the bone crushing.
How long has it been since Fry drank the Emperor anyway? At least a day, right? Probably more? Yet all that liquid from the bottle is still sitting in his stomach?
What about crying?
That's a great idea. Crying.
This is what happens when neither Leela nor the professor are there to balance out the stupid.
I'll make you cry, buddy. Everyone you knew or loved in the 20th century is dead.
These things happen.
Fry's relationship with his future and past lives are one of my favorite parts of his character development. He starts out completely happy-go-lucky. His old life sucked, the future is new and exciting, and he barely gives a thought to the people he left behind.
I'll never see any of them again. Yahoo!
It's not long, though, before he starts to exhibit nostalgia for the trappings of his old life, and within a year, perhaps because of the Xmas season tugging at his heartstrings, he begins to miss his family. When his 20th century girlfriend Michelle emerges from a freezer tube in the Cryonic Woman, she tells Fry that nobody in the year 2000 really cared that he had disappeared. Of course, we see later that this isn't true at all.
I just wish your brother were still around to see this.
Oh, I miss him.
Son, I'm naming you Philip J. Fry in honor of my little brother, who I miss every day.
Despite his trysts with Michelle and other women throughout the series, it becomes clear that what Fry really loves about the future is Leela. To him, she is the future, and his future.
I know she thinks I'm immature, but someday I won't be. And deep down in my heart, I know we'll end up together.
It comes to a head in Bender's big score when, pursued by murderous nudists and heartbroken by Leela's engagement to Lars, he cries out,
"I hate the future!"
and seeks refuge back where it all began. And that's where everything changes. No longer stuck in the future, he turns his attention to the right now. He matures, he betters himself, focuses on what's important, and finally lets go and accepts that he and Leela can never be.
It's enough to know you're happy with Lars.
And in a painfully true-to-life fashion, that's the moment when he's become the man who's right for her.
I'm Lars! Wait for me, Leela! I'll be there in 1,000 years!
Collect call from...
I'm not giving my name to a machine.
I'll accept.
I noticed, and now can't unnotice, that the bottom left corner of this video phone screen is far more rounded off than the other three. I also noticed that it's voice activated and has a speaker. So what's the handset for? Privacy mode?
Fry's in trouble, and he needs help.
I like to think this video phone booth is an off-brand import from Earth that just barely works and was installed in the palace as a courtesy to off-world guests, but guests usually use their own communicators because it's just easier, and this thing is missing a row of buttons, and who the heck is in this phone book that they're going to know anyway? The Trisolians don't seem to have much of their own advanced technology. I guess that shouldn't be a surprise. I would imagine having liquid bodies places limits on one's ability to develop electronics. We do see a microphone at one point, and later the Juice-O-Matic 4000, but these too could be off-world imports. They obviously trade with other planets, that's what brought the Planet Express crew here in the first place. And just a few episodes later, we see that the Trisolians are members of the Democratic Order of Planets. It's possible they only recently began interacting with other planets, or perhaps they just prefer a more rudimentary existence. Either way, it would explain why they built the ship landing pad way out in the desert, a sizable hike away from civilization.
What the hell is that?
It's the Juice-O-Matic 4000.
It was a gift from the ambassador from Amazonia. We honestly never thought we'd find a use for it.
Okay, it's your turn.
See, this guy's got the right idea. He's beating Fry with a chair rather than just flinging himself at him. Don't know why these guys couldn't figure it out. I also don't know why the Trisolians have chairs. Seems like it would be really easy to just skloosh right out through that back part. Oh, you know what would be really funny? Those ones with the mesh seats. I obeyed the will of the people, and I did the overthinking video first, but I know a lot of you are curious about this, and if a certain somebody's shadow is present. I teased it in a couple of shorts, and this is going to be the next video on the docket, followed by a deeper exploration of Trisol's solar system. Actually, there may be a few more videos that come out while I'm working on the next overthinking. Subscribe to catch them all. See you next time.